All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen. And guys, we are coming to you to preview our Week 10 matchup against our division rival, the Arizona Cardinals in Los Angeles. Jake, another division rival game. Very exciting. We're doing it at home at SoFi in LA. And listen, we are coming off of a not good week, a not good Rams loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know that everyone was really upset about that, including us. It's time to move on, guys. Hopefully, we put together a better a better showing this week, and Jake and I are going to talk about how we can do that. To start this off, though, side note, guys, everyone's always asking, Alexis, are you freezing on these podcasts? You're always wearing winter clothing and hoodies and bundled up, if you're watching on YouTube. The answer is yes. I am always freezing. So if you're looking at me right now, I'm wearing this very large hoodie and a baseball hat, and I'm still cold. I just wanted to answer that because it's just like constantly something I get messaged about after this. If you think I'm cold, I am. And even if you think I'm not cold, I am cold. It's just my nature.
Big moment in our podcast. You need to clip that.
This is breaking news. I'm clarifying it once and for all. Is Alexis always cold? Yes, she is always cold. But it's okay because I prefer to be cold than hot. But that's me rambling. So Jake, let's get back to football. Okay, division matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. Now listen, we talk a lot about the Rams, obviously, and the Rams have had kind of not a good season, if we're being honest. We've been very up and down. There's been a lot of weird things going on. There's been a lot of tension. The Arizona Cardinals are no different. Guys, if you haven't been paying attention, the Arizona Cardinals, Jake, I believe it was last week, was it the altercation between Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins on the sideline?
I believe so.
It was either last week or the week before.
Yeah, they have been who we thought they would be, because you and I were not high on the Cardinals coming into this year.
We weren't.
I was higher on Seattle than remember that? I said, I was like, Seattle's better than people think. I just I couldn't buy into the whole they're going to, draft in the top 5. I didn't buy that, but.
Well, Seattle has way outperformed Arizona. So anyone who called that a good call, because Arizona has had kind of similar, I would say, to the Rams in terms of the kind of the inconsistency and the up and down. I admit I've not watched every single Arizona Cardinals game this season. I know that I'm sorry, guys. I don't watch every single NFC West game. I do.
Credibility gone.
I know. Bummer. I'm not dying to watch the Arizona Cardinals. I'm sorry, guys. But from what I have seen, it has also had that kind of weird feeling. There's a very inconsistent vibe to them. It seems like Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury cannot get on the same page. And we also know, just based on things that have been said and things that we have seen, for example, during the game last week with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins getting really frustrated on the sideline, Kyler getting frustrated with Cliff Kingsbury. There is a lot of tension going on, which in my mind is good for the Rams, obviously, as competition. And I'm very curious what they're going to do against the Rams, because the Rams on the flip side are having the same problems. Obviously, I don't think the Rams, as weird as it sounds, are having these problems as openly as the Arizona Cardinals. Like, us fans who are watching the game, we know that bad things are happening, right? We're watching the Rams and we're having a waking nightmare. But it hasn't boiled over into the press as much as the Arizona Cardinals have, and kind of the weirdness of that team. And Jake and I are going to dive into that. But just to kind of foreshadow everything we talk about, guys, essentially we have two teams playing, the Rams and the Cardinals, both struggling heavily offensively. There's little flashes here and there, right? When you talk about, the Rams, we see these kind of little pockets where Matthew Stafford gets in a role. We have Cooper Kupp, which certainly helps us. You start to see, Henderson maybe making some plays, Tyler Higbee, and then it dies again. But the Cardinals, they're doing the same thing. we're seeing them struggle offensively, but then yet we'll see when DeAndre Hopkins came back, because remember, he didn't play the first 6 weeks. He came back. He had some explosive plays with Kyler. James Conner is now hurt, but, obviously good player there, Rondale Moore. So, and they seem to have a few plays here and there where everything looks really good, or a few drives, and then they're not doing anything. So, Jake, what is your overall thought on this Rams versus Cardinals matchup? And in your opinion, what do the Rams offensively, we'll start with the offense, what do they need to do offensively to bounce back this week after, obviously our momentum got crushed last week against the Bucs and at the end of the game. So we need to come out and win this game, I think, and make a strong offensive presence. That just sounded like I was just throwing buzzwords together, but there's a lot the Rams need to do. So what do you think we need to do? And what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, there's a lot, right? We haven't really discussed it, but obviously, as long as you're not, Patrick Starr sleeping under a little rock, then Matthew Stafford might not play in this game. And I know, he was a limited participant today. We're recording this on a Friday. I'm just going to say it right now. For the player, for the person, for the fact that you have a 5-year deal invested in him, no, he should not play under any circumstances. He was in concussion protocol, should not play. Okay. That then leads you to John Wolford, who I was saying this, on the channel, and I got some pushback, Alexis. And I mean, you and I are both about as unbiased as we can get. If you're on my side here, because we have allegiance to Bryce Perkins. He was on this show. He's our guy. But I think they should start Wolford. I think it's a lot to just throw Perkins into a game where if they lose this game, the season's effectively over. In all likelihood. 3-6, still having to play the Chiefs, and if the Packers figure it out, the Broncos, the Chargers, Seattle twice. I'm not doing that to Bryce. However, John Wolford is 1-0 in regular season matchups, and he beat the Cardinals. Wolford has the mobility where I don't worry about the offensive line as much. And really, the offensive line has been playing well, aside from Bobby Evans, who likely wasn't going to start this week anyway, with Coleman Shelton coming back. So when you factor that in, then you factor in the fact that Alexis, I'm going to say it, and I've already said before, I'll say it again, in case you haven't heard on the channel, but I believe that John Wolford would be a blessing in disguise for the Rams. I don't think he's better than Stafford. He's not going to throw more than Stafford. That is exactly why I think he'll be a blessing in disguise. See, Sean McVay, we've talked about this many times, absolutely abandons the run. But when you have John Wolford, as much as I like the guy, and he made some really nice throws in his start in 2020, he's not a guy that you can run the same exact offense that you run with Matthew Stafford. And that's fine, because quite honestly, I don't want anything like we've seen so far to this point, because the offense hasn't been it, so to speak. But I think with, John Wolford kind of forces you to run the ball more, right? And I think it's a perfect week to run the ball. You got Darrell Henderson and you got Kyren Williams back now, okay? Let those guys have at it, for real. If you want to get Cam Akers involved a little bit, sprinkle him in there, that's fine. But that's what this is what the game plan should be. John Wolford, at the end of the day, should have about 150 passing yards. He should have like 70 rushing yards, and the rest should be in the run game. That is what they should do. If they could get at least, I mean, I could see the defense holding them to fewer points, but if they could get to at least 20 points, I think they win the game pretty easily. Because I do think the defense is going to step up like they did the last time. But I think that this is an opportunity here for Sean McVay to kind of be like the glass to shatter and be like, oh my God. It's not that John Wolford's better than Matthew Stafford. It's that he gets so carried away throwing the ball all the time because he has Matthew Stafford. He uses Matthew Stafford like he's a double XP token in Call of Duty and he expires at midnight. Like, you don't need to have him throwing 50 times in a game when you're running the ball well. You don't need to have him throwing 50 times in a game when you're up by 2 possessions and you now control the clock. Like, that's been the Rams' issue, is that, believe it or not, they led the 49er game. They led the Buccaneers game. I mean, they get off to these leads and they're still throwing the ball deep down the field. On 3rd and 4, they're taking a deep shot and they're punting afterwards. It's like, I want to see more balance and consistency. And I think John Wolford could force that out of Sean McVay this weekend.
I'm glad that you brought up the Matthew Stafford thing, because I was going to bring that up now when I do the injury report. So that's a good segment. And the Kyren Williams thing. So let's talk about those two, and then I'll get into the injury report. As far as the Matthew Stafford thing goes, I'm totally on the same page as you. I know it's really disappointing. I know the idea of losing your starting quarterback in an already struggling offense is like very scary. I understand that. I know why people are really hoping that he comes back. But I think, and especially this season with what we've seen with concussions, it's just not worth the risk. Matthew Stafford is limited, which is a good sign. It's a good sign that he is not able to practice at all, right? I mean, that would indicate a very serious concussion. He's having very strong symptoms. He can't even get on the field. That's not the case. He was at least limited today. You know, he wasn't doing a full-on practice. However, in my mind, I'm looking at this matchup this week. I think, and we'll get into this more, I think that we can beat the Arizona Cardinals. This is not, in my opinion, I think it's hard to say, because with the Rams right now, I feel like every game is a must-win game because of the position we're in. However, this isn't, in my mind, like the Green Bay Packers. This isn't like a Buffalo Bills. I think that we can afford to give Matthew an extra week. There's no need to risk it. Monitor him and put Wolford in. So I'm on the same page with you as that. Now with Kyren Williams. So before we talk about the injury report, let's talk about two people that were activated. Coleman Shelton, who's coming back and will replace Bobby Evans. And I think as a Rams fan, I can speak for all of us when I say thank God. I mean, absolutely been a nightmare. Jake, I don't have to tell you. I've seen your tweets about it. Just
throw me under the bus here.
Well, no. You're not the only one though. Everybody's on the same page. Okay.
No, I know.
think this is something that is uniting all Rams fans. We disagree in a lot, but I think we all agree that Bobby Evans is just, some of the memes are just unreal. And the
do feel
caps,
for him.
I feel for him. I do feel for him.
He shouldn't be in that position. That's on the coaching side.
It's just, yeah, it's not personal. This is a game decision. He shouldn't be in there. Now, Kyren Williams, guys, it is finally time. Head coach Sean McVay confirmed today that Kyren Williams will be playing Sunday against the Cardinals. I'm ecstatic. I've been waiting for this moment since April. It's just been a really long road for us Kyren Williams stands. I know that there's a lot of us, and he got hurt on a freak thing. First game of the season. He's had to
on
wait.
Special teams. So help me, Jesus.
No. If I see him out there on special teams, I'll like throw my remote through the window. Like, it's just.
I don't think the Rams. Like, I expect you to fly to LA and like yell in Sean McVay's face.
Yeah, I'm gonna fly to LA and I'm gonna demand to be Kyren's personal bodyguard. He doesn't even have to pay me. I'll just quit my job and live on the streets, and I'll just protect him with my life. Like, that should not be happening.
Oh man.
But Kyren Williams, Jake, let's talk about that. He is going to be playing Sunday, and I don't expect the Rams. So Sean McVay has said that they expect a big role from Kyren. All the Rams reporters are saying the same thing. They all saw him play in training camp. I mean, he was taking reps with first team. Being used as a back and a receiver. They expect to use him in a lot of different ways. I don't expect him to go out there Sunday, especially with like Wolford at quarterback, and have the workload that the Rams would normally expect out of him. So don't be surprised, guys, if Kyren Williams debuts Sunday and is not used that much. I don't think that they're going to do that right away. I especially think it's going to be complicated because we're probably going to have a backup quarterback playing, and the whole game plan just for everybody is probably going to be slightly altered. And he's also coming off an injury, right? So, he's been practicing, but it's very different to playing a game. But Jake, You and I have been saying this. Kyren, he can do a lot. He's going to be good in the run game. He's going to be good in the passing game. In pass pro, a team that has been struggling with protection, this is going to be huge for Kyren Williams. Jake, in your opinion, how are the Rams going to use Kyren Williams on Sunday? And do you expect him? And like I said, I don't think that this is going to be a full workload from him this game. But do you think we're going to see flashes of the of what Kyren Williams can bring to the Rams offense?
Yeah, I think we're going to see him a little bit. I'm not expecting a ton. I think really, the thought process behind it is Sean McVay and company, they're just going to go with the game flow. That's really what they set with Cam Akers, right? They said it's going to be dependent on game flow. If, we feel like we can get him in there and he's playing well, we're not going to take him out, and Cam Akers ran 5 times for 3 yards. So if Kyren doesn't find really any success on the ground, then they'll probably just give him a break and, maybe not run the ball much with him, try to get him, loose a little bit in the receiving game and in pass pro, like you mentioned. I do expect this to be a Darrell Henderson dominated game because I do think Sean McVay, to an extent, kind of woke up last week and was like, man, Darrell Henderson really is our best running back right now. And we need to, and he's been asked about it. And he said there's definitely a possibility they increased his workload. It's been all about keeping him healthy, so to speak. So, I mean, could you see it increase to like 25 carries? Probably not. But Henderson's had really good success against the Arizona Cardinals in the past. He had like a 6.4 yard per carry day against the Cardinals last time they played at SoFi last year, in the regular season. And, basically Sony Michel fumbled at their own 20 and the Cardinals took over and ended up going up by 3 possessions, and it eliminated the need for the run game because you couldn't run down 3 scores. So, he's had success against this team. I think when you look at Kyren Williams, though, I think absolutely the things that he has, like, the skill set he possesses, he's definitely going to be able to flash a little bit. I mean, even in a limited opportunity, you can see the wiggle. You can see, how he can create yards and make guys miss. I definitely think you'll see that. I mean, keep in mind, we saw Ronnie Rivers just kind of show up, and the guy had, 8 touches his first game. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the magic number, like 8 to 10 touches for Kyren to get him comfortable. What I will say is I think the Rams are going to be very wary. They look at this guy as a weapon. They do not want to tip their hand on how they're going to use him when they have Seattle twice left on the schedule. They have Kansas City. They have the Chargers, even the Packers. I mean, Broncos. Those are teams where it's like, maybe against the Cardinals and the Saints upcoming, I'm not trying to throw the kitchen sink out there with Kyren because, we know what we have in Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, and so forth. Kyren Williams, teams don't really know what we have in him. So once you put him out there, he's on tape for good. You have to keep that in mind. So I do think Sean McVay is going to have to try to find that happy medium, a balance of like, do you use him a lot? Do you not use him a lot? He could help you out, but then on the flip side, a lot of that goes up on tape and it's easier to shut down. I think you got to play the long game with him because there's no need to force him. The way Henderson ran last week, the team is starting to kind of trend in a positive direction with the pass protection over the last 2 weeks. They've only allowed 22 pressures in 2 weeks. That's really not bad considering. And then you look at John Wolford and his ability to run. I mean, I think that they should use him, but I definitely don't want to see them just overload Kyren right out of the gate. You don't want him to get hurt again. So you got to, manage that, like allow him to walk into the swimming pool. Don't push him in, essentially. And I think, at the end of the day, Kyren's going to have 8 to 10 touches. Maybe against the Saints, they increase the workload. I think where we're really going to see Kyren Williams start to emerge, I think, is the Kansas City game. Because that is a winner. That is a massive game. I mean, we could be looking at that, if the Rams would win that and they win the next 2, then they're sitting at 6-5. They've won 3 straight and their season is completely changed. So, that Kansas City game is going to be massive. And I think they're probably going to want to make sure that they're using Kyren to get to that point where they win the next two, and you know, not hold him back enough where they're losing games, you know, trying to keep him off the tape. But at the same time, you know, not using him too much where you can still, you know, throw stuff out there that defenses haven't seen, get different looks, and keep, you know, the Chiefs and the Seahawks honest moving forward. So I think we'll definitely see him. Just the capacity might not be as exciting. Like, for instance, in fantasy, because I know a lot of people out there are probably like, do I start Kyren? Like, what do I do there? I mean, if you have nothing to do, like you have literally no one to start, it's a tough week with the bye. There's a lot of teams, the Jets, the Ravens. If you have nowhere to go, then Kyren could maybe get you 6 to 10 fantasy points. But I'm probably going to avoid starting him this week. I feel like, you know, he's going to be very touchdown dependent. And I'm not saying he won't get a touchdown, but it just isn't very, like, the odds aren't great. So, you know, if you're looking for a week to start Kyren Williams, it's probably the Kansas City Chiefs week 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I've already had a few people ask me about the fantasy thing with Kyren, and I was like, I would wait. I have, you know, full belief in him and his capacity, but I don't think that this week is going to be the week. Like we've said, I don't think the Rams are going to utilize him as much as they can. But yeah, I don't think this is the week that we see, you know, a ton from Kyren. I don't want people to get disappointed, guys. If you like, I know that we've been hyping Kyren Williams up a lot, and a lot of people are getting really excited. But like, if you don't see him a lot this game, if you don't see anything, you know, flashy, you know, crazy, that's okay. That is kind of the point. Like we've said, this is an introduction week to the NFL. And they certainly don't want to get him hurt again. So I'm not expecting this to be a heavy workload week for Kyren, as much as I would love to see it. I'm just happy that we're going to see him on the field in a Rams uniform. I literally cannot describe how happy I'm about that. I mean,
number 23, it's going to be glorious.
I know. It's going to be exciting. But moving on to the rest of the injury report, Jake, just very quickly, let me pull this up here. As far as people, so again, we record this on a Friday. People who did not practice, or let's do it this way. People who are for sure out Sunday for the Rams are Traven Howard and Malcolm Brown. So those are the two injuries for the Rams that are for sure no-goes this Sunday. As far as questionable for Sunday, Jake, are Brian Allen, Robert Rochelle, and Matthew Stafford. They are questionable. And by the way, doubtful, I should have done this first, are Greg Gaines and Alaric Jackson. So Alaric Jackson, that's a bummer to see. He's been filling in at left tackle. And then Greg Gaines, obviously, you know, pretty productive there at defensive tackle. Jake, what are your thoughts before I get into Arizona's injury reports about that?
Well, you said Greg Gaines is doubtful?
Yes. As of today, as of Friday, he is doubtful with a elbow injury.
Based on what I'm hearing with this injury report, with Malcolm Brown being out, Ronnie Rivers is out of practice squad elevations. So this is going to be, by all accounts, Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, and Kyren Williams. There's nobody else coming to save them. So those are the three that they're going to use, the three that they're going to roll with. I don't think in that order. I think it'll be Henderson, Kyren, and Akers, but you know, we'll see. But now, you know, with Greg Gaines being out, I will say Marquise Copeland, when called upon, has been outstanding. He's been an incredible run defender. He's a UDFA out of Cincinnati. They've continued to work on and just build up his game. His most notable play was against Arizona. He had a interception in the wild card game last year. Actually, this year, if you're looking at the actual calendar year. But you know, I feel like they're fine there. You could also see. I mean, it's going to be because of all these injuries, right? These guys. It's not as many healthy scratches as there are, you know, guys that are out. And by losing a guy like Gaines or losing a guy like Alaric Jackson, you know, Ty Nsekhe is going to be active. I would imagine he'll be their left tackle. Really cool story with him. I mean, obviously it sucks that Alaric is out, but really cool with Nseki because he was on this team in 2012, and not this team, but in St. Louis. And it's like, yep, it only took 10 years for me to finally start for this team, and here I am. So I am happy for him. Our friend Eric Crocker joked and said, he talked to him 10 years ago, about playing in the spring league or something. And he said like he was done. And now here he is, and he's still, he's playing. I think he's like 37 or whatever, but he's older. But I think, he looked decent in those 2-3 reps that he had when, Alaric got hurt. So I don't know. I mean, it might change how you approach this game. Do you run to the left at all? Do you run towards the right? Do you, it might change that. He is going to be protecting Wolford or Stafford's blind side. I'm going to say it's Wolford. So with Gaines out, I think you'll see, Bobby Brown. I think he'll be activated for the first time this year. So we'll get a chance to see him in kind of a rotational basis, mainly going to see Marquise Copeland. And then I think, obviously Stafford is questionable. I don't think he's going to play. And I do think Brian Allen's going to suit up. If he doesn't suit up, then it's going to be Coleman Shelton at center, which is like unbelievable how many different combinations this offensive line has had. So if that's the case, then it'll be Ty Nseki at left tackle. Left guard, I would imagine, is going to, at that point, they could move Brewer to left guard, or they could just play Ode Abushi there, or Matt Skura, or even Coleman Shelton and have Matt Skura at center. So there are different ways that they could go. I'd probably go with left guard would be Abushi, center would be Shelton, right guard would be Brewer. He's in a rhythm. He played a really nice game. His first ever start. I'm not trying to move him around. Like, he's comfortable at right guard. I'm keeping him there. And then right tackle, you have Havenstein. So I don't know. It'll be interesting though. Do they have guys like, guys that were inactive last week, for instance, Blanton, who just got added back to the practice squad. We'll see if he gets elevated. That might actually be kind of a sneaky play, Alexis, because now that his contract was terminated and they brought him back on the practice squad, his elevations on the practice squad reset. So they can call him up. I don't know if that's what they planned on doing, but they can't do that with Jacob Harris. So there's a numbers game here. And then the other thing I was going to point out was Tutu Atwell, because, Wolford doesn't have the arm Stafford has, but man, I think it would be really cool if Sean McVay was like, you know what? Stafford hasn't had the time to really go deep down the field, really be confident in his throw. And Wolford has the ability to improvise, right? Because he's just more mobile. Not that Stafford can't, but just not on the level of Wolford. So if he just had Tutu Atwell go down the field, like deep down the field, and it's like, even if there was pressure on Wolford and he could kind of sneak out of it and, take a shot down the field, improvise a little bit, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see what the speed can do. On the other hand, this team doesn't have Marquise Brown, who would be like that, for this team. The Rams played, even more bend don't break than ever before when they played against the Cardinals last time in their 20-12 win. And, I feel like, the last time was 14 catches for 140 yards Marquise Brown had. He's out. So they're not going to have, that explosive. So that might change how they defend him. They will have Rondale Moore. But on the Rams side, I think that you got to be able to, at least impose your will, with your speed. And when you have Van Jefferson, who has been a deep threat, who has given this team fits, his father's on the other sideline, so he's seen it up close and personal. I think you got to take advantage of the speed threats. And even if that's just, basically unlocking the underneath, the short and intermediate game, allowing, Atwell and Jefferson to go vertical, and unlocking Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Tyler Higbee, and the running backs, in the short and intermediate. If you have to play that style of game the whole day, I think you're going to win pretty easily. So I'm just curious to see, like, if Atwell gets, if he's deactivated again, how long does it take before the Rams just pull the plug on him? Because we just saw that with Burgess. So I guess that's a question for you, because I actually am a believer in Atwell. I think they have a talent here that they probably thought was going to be like a Tyreek Hill type of player that they could, but they haven't really given him much of a shot. And he only has one completion in his career, one reception in his career that went for 50 plus yards, and they haven't gone back to him. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
My take on the Tutu Atwell situation is that the Rams saw him in camp after they drafted him and were like, this is not what we signed up for. That was the impression that I got. They were like, because again, you look at what happens with his usage. I mean, it has always been virtually non-existent. And with a second round draft pick, that's very bizarre. It has been very bizarre to me with the way that they just immediately changed course on Tutu Atwell. And just from what I've heard, and I know what has been reported and what has not been reported, my assumption is that the Rams got Tutu Atwell and we're like, this isn't what we thought this was going to be. Now, this isn't a dig at Tutu Atwell because he is what he is. I had him projected as a late round draft pick. I think most people did. A lot of people around the NFL, and NFL fans and NFL reporters were shocked when Tutu Atwell was taken in the second round.
Yeah.
I think the Rams, for some reason, had kind of an expectation of, or they thought maybe that there was something there with Atwell that ended up not being there. I would like to see the Rams give him a few more opportunities. Maybe there's a way for them to work around that. Maybe they can use him differently than intended. But if someone's asked me, what do I think is going to happen with that? I think they are going to pull the plug on that. I kind of feel like they already have. He's been a healthy scratch for a lot of games. He seems very situational, very, very situational. And again, for a second round pick, that's really weird to me. And I don't see this lasting long. I know that sounds like a bummer to a lot of people, but I know that a lot of people are on the same page. It's just not. Maybe Tutu Atwell would thrive better in a different type of offense. I don't know what it is, but whatever the Rams originally had planned for Tutu Atwell, it was clear to them, I'll say that, in training camp, that it was not going to happen. And I don't know what all of those reasons are, but I just think that it was just kind of like an unfortunate, like, oh, we made a mistake here. Like, we thought one thing, we were getting one thing and we got a very different thing, and it's clear that it's not going to work out the way that we want. And again, like I said, I think they've made that very subtly clear. He's been a healthy scratch for a number of games, quite a bit. So sorry, my dog almost just knocked over.
Oh dear God.
My light. It didn't happen. If you guys just saw me like look away in fear over to my lights. Anyway.
Well, what I want to add to that, because you said in training camp, just to push back a little, they were pushing him in training camp, and we were hearing glowing reports, and he was getting behind the secondary easily. And then they don't even really use him. I don't think they used him at all in the preseason. And so I'm just so confused because I like Powell. I do. He's a nice story. But if Brandon Powell, this UDFA free agent who had bounced around teams, if he's the reason why you're not using Atwell, I think that's a user error. Like, I think that's on the Rams.
I don't think that's why, though. Like what I was saying is Tutu Atwell is very situational. There was not a diversity of skill set. And I think that the Rams, like you mentioned the Tyreek Hill thing, that is not Tutu Atwell.
Well, I don't think he's Tyreek Hill.
Well, and that's fair because, like, really, who is, right? But
yeah, Tyreek Hill's just. Yeah.
I think that Tutu Atwell has like has one purpose. I think that he is good at getting behind defenders and for that long ball. But the problem in the NFL is it's very rare that like you can afford to just have a receiver that is like very one-dimensional like that. And I do think that is Tutu Atwell. And I think, again, the Rams haven't had a reason to even activate him because of that. I mean, there hasn't been a reason to have him fill a roster spot when he's not going to be used in a multitude of ways. So
I do think here's what I'll say about this, because this is a really good debate topic, because what I think is he's actually a decent route runner going back to preseason, seeing how he played, had a really nice rapport with Bryce Perkins. And then he gets hurt. He wasn't really utilized in the offense. It just feels like this team just likes to sometimes avoid guys. Like, just because maybe the way they practice or something. Like, Terrell Burgess would have been just as good as Taylor. Taylor Rapp has not had a good season. He's not. I don't think, like, I don't know how you cut, a third round pick in 2020 like that just so quickly when two of your starting safeties right now, they haven't looked great. I mean, Nick Scott has not looked good and Taylor Rapp has struggled. And those two are both free agents. And then you look at the offense and you're like, I like Brandon Powell, but again, he's not having a great year as a returner. And then they use him in the offense, and I like seeing him in the offense. It's like a cute little thing. But I just feel like the idea, like, you can't get Atwell involved on the end arounds. How many does he have this year? Maybe one, if even. You can't get him, the quick slants, get him some space to, the bubble screen they tried. It just wasn't executed correctly. Okay, go at it again. I just feel like they should try to protect their investments more. Because if you're going with this F them picks, you can't just have second round pick Cam Akers, fail there, and Tutu Atwell fail here, and third round pick Terrell Burgess fail there. Like, you got to get these guys reps. The way I see it is Bobby Evans has had more of a chance than any of these guys, and I mean, we already know he can't start in this league. So it's frustrating to me because, like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's my frustration with the Rams right now. You should be trying anything that works. And, like, they went away, for instance, from the Ben Skoranek thing. They were using him at fullback and they're having success. So they're like, oh, well, we're having success with this, so let's not go back to that. Like, it just seems like they find some things here and there and then they just kind of back away from them. It's why I think the usage of Henderson has been questionable. I think the usage of Allen Robinson has been questionable. And I think that's why, to kind of wrap it up into a bow of what I'm saying, it's not just Atwell. I mean, it's all those guys. And I think it all starts with the offense. And I think that's why they're 3-5, because I think the offense just has no identity. It's get it to Cooper Kupp. It's basically, I'm going to say this, the Rams offense, and I had this realization the other night. The Rams offense is the Lakers offense in basketball. The Lakers just try to get it to their stars. Lakers are like LeBron, AD, Russ. If they don't score 90 points a game all together, they're probably going to lose and even still might lose. And they need guys to step up, and they don't. The only difference is I think it is manufactured by the coaching staff. Like, I don't think McVay's doing the best job of putting these guys in position. And I just think when we watch this Rams offense, there's nothing special. It's a bunch of really talented guys that just they're not utilized correctly. Like, throw a deep ball to Allen Robinson, let him go up and high point the football. We don't see that. Allow Tutu Atwell to be your gadget option. I mean, look at the way the Panthers are utilizing a far less athletic but fun player in Laviska Shenault. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Use him like that. There's no need to not use him at all. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It just kind of wraps it up as to why I think the offense is struggling. There's just not a lot of creativity, and they're trying to get, like, Brandon Powell these opportunities, which, like I said, it's fun to see him get involved, but he's not really doing a whole lot, and they're, like, not even giving Atwell a shot. It just, at some point, it makes you feel like when Cooper Kupp, and I think you said this to me, was like, Cooper Kupp wants the offense to be innovative. And you tweeted out something like, I can't believe we're talking about a Sean McVay offense, that needs to be innovative or whatever. Might have been somebody else. But the point about that is there is no innovation. It's basically just get it to Kupp. Let's survive. Let's have the defense, kind of guide us. And then it's like, there's nothing special. Even though they have the talent, they're just not utilizing them correctly. So I don't know. It's a long rambled on thing, but, like, obviously I think the Atwell thing frustrates me, but this definitely boils over from a guy that you and I like, but it's not just the fact that we like him. I don't feel like guys like Burgess are getting a shot. You're cutting guys like John Franklin Myers, who, strip sack Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, win Rams Rookie of the Year in his first year, is your diamond in the rough you got from Stephen F. Austin in the 4th round. Like, you're outsmarting guys, and then you cut him the next year, and now he's a stud on the Jets. Yeah. I watch him every week. It just seems like it's like the same thing. And while I want to, I want to back the F them picks. I think the Burgess thing really broke the glass for me on that, because I do feel like the Rams aren't putting certain players in position to succeed.
Well, that tweet was from me.
Okay,
I said that I never thought I'd see the day where a Sean McVay offense needs innovation, and I was agreeing with Cooper Kupp on that. Like,
yeah,
right? Like, who would have thought that we get to that point?
who would have thought? Not
in
me.
terms of just the overall thing that you're talking about, I agree with you. I think the Rams do a very poor job at developing talent, and I'm going to say that. I think that there are a few players, Cooper Kupp, that are an exception to that. But I do think the Rams have a little bit of a short fuse when it comes to players. It's what can you do for me right away? And if you can't do what we want, that's it. We're not going to take the time to, and again, if you're going to have the F them picks mentality, you can't have both. I don't think, because it's just going to lead you down a bad path. I don't think that's what's happening with Tutu Atwell. I do stand by that. I know what was said during training camp, but I know that what the vibe was. And again, I think that I agree with you. Maybe just while you have him, try to use him more. I think that the Rams just don't have a lot of faith in him being a guy that can do multiple things, and they don't want to waste their time with it. Whether that's right or wrong, I think that they look at him and they're like, that this is not going anywhere. I tend to kind of agree. But I do think that they could probably do a better job of using him more. I think the Burgess thing, obviously people know that we really like him. He's been on our show a couple times, but that's not why we feel like this. I do feel bad that, again, I feel like he wasn't really given an opportunity to become kind of what the Rams could have used, if that makes sense. I feel like he was just kind of thrown in there randomly in pockets of time when they needed safety help.
When was the last time, by the way, they had a Pro Bowl safety? Because I'll tell you right now, we love John Johnson, wasn't a Pro Bowl safety. He did not make a Pro Bowl.
Well, again, it just goes to the overlying thing that, as a fan, it is a little bit kind of a bummer, because you want them to develop these players. And I don't think the Rams do a good job of that in recent years. No. And again, you could say, oh, well, it's not a big deal. Either you come in and you contribute, and you don't, you're gone. Okay, that's fine. But not when you don't have any high draft picks to gain capital. And
they're too cutthroat on it.
And so, I do think, again, I think that there are a lot of reasons that the Rams look at the way they do. I'm not saying that this is a huge reason, but I think it is a reason. I think that the Rams approach, the F them picks thing is going to have to stop eventually. It was always going to have to stop, right? There's only so many picks in the world. Like, you can't just not have a draft pick for 5-6 years. You're not going to get anywhere. So it's going to have to stop eventually. I think it's going to have to be sooner than later.
I get the reasoning. I mean, honestly, Alexis does have to stop. I mean, if they're going to keep missing on second and third rounders, I guess it makes sense.
I mean, I think that when you see teams have longevity in the NFL, it is usually because they have all of those. They have a team and a young core. No, right? You're right. You see with all these teams, and they build them up. The Rams, they did win a Super Bowl, yes, but how did they win that? They won that by acquiring a lot of stars in a couple years periods of time, and they won. That's great. That's awesome. Good. I think that was smart for the way that they wanted to do it. But that is not a viable option to win in back-to-back years, right? There's only so many picks. And so it's you look at the Brian Burns situation, right? A lot of people think that we missed out on Brian Burns, and you and I kind of disagree. I would have never traded that many picks for Brian Burns. But one of the reasons
I would have, but it's one of those things where if it happens, that's awesome. If not, get him in free agency.
Well, that's the thing, is people were with the Panthers in their mind. I think they're listen, because they'll have Brian Burns next year, I believe, and then he's a free agent, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Panthers proved on Thursday night that they're a quarterback away. They're not a bad football team. They just don't have a quarterback. Well, so I wouldn't have traded Burns if I were them.
In terms of the draft capital, it's why would you accept picks from a team that doesn't have a pick in the next 1 or 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's the problem the Rams are going to run into, is if they want to keep up the pace of just, F them picks, trade it. It's okay, well, eventually teams are going to be Why would I take a first round pick in 2026 or 2027? You know what I mean? So it's like that option does not work for that long. And then then you can get yourself into a situation where you don't have that young core because you don't have all those solid draft picks because you traded all those picks away, right? So it's kind of like a very fine line the Rams have to tread, which is why I'm off the F them picks train. Now, it might be a different vibe for me if the Rams were like, instead of 3-5, they were 5-3 right now, or like 6-2, and we were just like a couple key pieces away, then I'd be like, you know what? It's worth it. Let's gamble it. I want to win Super Bowls back to back. But that's not
Results
the case.
keep critics away. I mean, that's about as simple as I can make that.
Yeah, it's just, so now it's a totally different situation because now it's like, it would be nice to have maybe those younger core players that we know are going to be around for a while. The Rams are on the complete opposite of that. We now have our stars are either kind of midway through their career or a little bit towards the end. I mean, if you think about that reality, we don't have the stars of our team are not 21 or 22 or whatever, right? I'm not saying that they're old, but we are past that point where we don't have a young core. So it's something to think about. There's a lot of debate about this. I know it just depends on people's like team building philosophy, what they prefer. But based on the way that this season is going, it is something sadly that we have to think about because, it's not going our way. It's just not. So, anyways, Jake, we'll wrap this up talking about the Arizona Cardinals. We'll get back to them. Just because, and again, I think that we'll go over, I think we can just do this quickly. We kind of talked about the offense already, right? We talk about what that's going to look like. I want to go over the injury report now for the Arizona Cardinals because this is very interesting. So players that are out for the Arizona Cardinals, for sure, are offensive linemen Cody Ford and Max Garcia. They're out, confirmed. Now, questionable. You've got, let me pull up here. Oh wait, sorry, I misread that. Officially out is Max Garcia and Rodney Hudson, not Max Garcia
or
Cody Ford.
Cody Ford.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, the way that I'm reading this on the report is it's not in a very good way. I should have pulled a different report. But okay, Max Garcia and Rodney Hudson out for Sunday.
That means Lucida Smith could play.
Cody Ford is questionable for Sunday. So they are missing 2 offensive line starters, and they've got 1 that is questionable. So they probably will play Lucida Smith. Also listed as questionable is Budda Baker, Byron Murphy, Dennis Gardeck, DJ Humphreys, that's another offensive lineman, Christian Matthew, Matt Prater, their kicker, and Jake Kyler Murray is questionable with a hamstring injury. We could be seeing a backup quarterback battle this Sunday.
All over again.
It is literally, and guys, again, we are running into a team that has more injuries than the Rams.
And it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But listen, that offensive line, Jake, that is insane. They have basically two guys out and another 2 that are questionable. And we are all too familiar with what that can mean. If you get down to, bottom of the barrel with your offensive linemen, I mean, we've been there. It looks like the Cardinals might be there Sunday. They might have a backup quarterback. And listen, you never wish injuries on anybody. But if you're talking from a competitive standpoint, the Rams have to see that and maybe breathe a little sigh of relief and be like, okay, that is, we're not facing a fully healthy Arizona Cardinals team, which I think a fully healthy Arizona Cardinals team, as we talked about earlier, I do think they have their struggles, but this is going to add to that significantly when you look at this report. You talk about a guy like Budda Baker. I mean, very, very good safety. We talk about safeties earlier. I really like Byron Murphy as a corner. So, Jake, what do you think about these injuries? I mean, if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan right now and you're looking at this, you can't feel too good.
Well, of course not. I mean, I think at this point, I just wouldn't want to be an Arizona Cardinal fan right now. I mean, they're staring 3-7 right in the face. If they lose this game, their season's done. I mean, the margin of error that you have after losing 7 games to start, in the first 10 of the season, I mean that they're just not making the playoffs at that point, because now, they lose one more game and they just barely beat the whole 500 thing. So I'll be honest with you, I didn't think they were that good coming in this year. The Rams barely beat them last time. Cam Akers fumbled at the goal line, would have been a 27-12 win. In all likelihood, the Rams kept this same offense, not this same offense, but mostly same offense, out of the end zone on 81 plays. The defense really did a nice job. They were without their three of their top 4 corners. They were without Jordan Fuller, and, they came to play. I mean, they used way more a passive defense. They played bend don't break in addition to bend don't break. It was like double bend don't break, and they still did a nice job of holding him out of the end zone. I look at this game and I'm like, I mean, what kind of Arizona team are you going to get? Because I think the talent is there. I mean, I don't think they're that great of a team, but on offense, Kyler Murray can put up points. DeAndre Hopkins can. Robbie Anderson, if he gets going, I mean, it's taken him a little bit to even feel comfortable in that offense. Just doesn't seem like a really great fit. But if he gets going, he's a problem over the top. And then Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch was their leading receiver, at one point earlier in the year. And then they have James Conner, who gave the Rams fits, in week 4 last year, against Arizona at SoFi. So, I think the Rams are really going to just have their way with this offense. I really do. The defense anyway. I think you kind of alluded to it. I mean, when you have that much turnover on the offensive line, that's a lot to deal with when you have to handle Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd. And, I think the Rams are going to blitz Ramsey here and maybe a Jacoby Durant there. Haven't really seen his number called. So I think after last week, I think we might see more Durant. But yeah, I'm just, at this point, I just feel like this offense just really, this is it. I mean, are you going to get a desperate Cardinals team? Desperate teams are very dangerous because they're playing for it all, and I feel like this Rams team, especially Sean McVay, 11-1 against the Cardinals since he took over as head coach of the Rams. He lost 1 game last year. That's the only time he's lost, in the 12 games. Where the Cardinals just blew out the Rams at SoFi. I mean, the Rams coming off the loss they're coming off, with the Bucks, if that doesn't get them ready for this game, then I don't know what's going to. You look at the defense. I mean, you have your, JJ Watt there, Zach Allen, Zaven Collins, Marcus Golden, Cam Thomas. I mean, they have some guys, but I think the Rams offense is going to be more balanced because of Wolford, and I think their defense is going to be able to hold this offense. And I think we're going to be getting the same exact game essentially that we got in week 17 of 2020. Kyler Murray is going to be a limited player, not going to be able to really use his legs because of the hamstring injury. I think he does play in this game, but similar to the last time the Rams played with John Wolford, I think he's going to leave the game, and they no longer have Chris Streveler. He's now with the Jets, but they do have Colt McCoy, who's probably one of the better backups in football. They probably should just start him because he's got like a quick trigger. He can get the ball out quickly, and if you're going to beat this defense, you got to just get the ball out quickly and, kind of annihilate the pass rush. So I think we'll see Colt McCoy in this game, but I think Kyler's going to start. And I think the Rams are going to end up winning this one. I really believe that. So that's how I have it with that.
Well, let's get into our predictions. Our predictions part. So, it's so tough to make these because I feel like we do this and then we watch the game and it's like, what was I thinking? But here's. Sorry, I'm not trying to like be negative, but it's just our record is not great. Our record is not great, but in terms of predictions,
my favorite one. Can I bring up my favorite one real quick?
Yeah, I know.
We both said the Rams were going to beat the Ravens by 2 possessions, and they lost like 44-6.
Yeah,
we podcasted while the game was going on in the third quarter. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, and I know we brought this up in the show a lot, guys, but like it was just like a very bizarre fever dream because it was like I was recording at the time where I lived, I would record in a closet in my bedroom, and I had the TV on in my bedroom, and I could hear the game going on as I'm recording this podcast. So we're like recording it, and I'm like, welcome back to Downtown Rams. The Rams have lost to the Baltimore Ravens. The game's actually still happening. I could hear it play, but we're just not going to watch the end of it. It was really weird. That was terrible. But anyway, that's not going to happen this week.
No.
My prediction, in terms of our game predictions, just like player stats or whatnot, I'm predicting, I don't even want to say this because this is going to like karma, but you know what? Whatever. I'm predicting a Kyren Williams touchdown. Okay? I'm predicting it. I would love it to be one of the classic Kyren Williams 60-yard shedding tackles, just breaking free. I don't think it's going to be that this game. I think that, like I said, I don't know. Well, it could be. I want to be surprised, but I'm just predicting any type of Kyren Williams touchdown. Rushing, receiving, he can do it all. But I really need that for my soul. I really need that for my morale. I need to see that. So I'm predicting that. I'm going to predict another Jalen Ramsey sack. I feel it coming. I feel the tension. I feel the anger. I could just feel him wanting to hit a quarterback so badly. And I see it. Whether it's Murray or McCoy, whoever we see this Sunday, I'm predicting a Jalen Ramsey sack. And let's see. Last one. I don't want to say Aaron Donald sack again because it's just so like whenever that happens, it's not surprising. But
yeah,
let's say like Ernest Jones sack. I could see that. I think that Ernest Jones needs to have a big game to kind of like reemerge from the shadows a little bit. That's not a dig. I just think that, with Bobby Wagner there, like Ernest Jones is kind of taking a back seat. I think he's been quietly productive. He's certainly played well. But I would love to see an Ernest Jones sack just to see his name back out there again. And, what about you?
I'm going to say we get I'm going to say Bobby Wagner interception. I think he's going to cut in between probably a Rondale Moore or somebody on a hook. And I think he's just going to come down and take it away. Not saying he houses it, but I think he's going to get a pick. And then I think John Wolford will have 2 total touchdowns in this game. I think he'll have a passing and I think he'll have a rushing. And I think if there's prerequisite here, if Henderson gets at least 15 touches, he's going over 100 yards easily. So as long as he gets at least 15 touches, Henderson's going over 100. And my last thing here, I will say Kyren Williams gets, I'll say this, Kyren Williams gets 50 total yards. That's not like a big, bold thing, but when you're talking about a guy who has never played in the NFL on the offensive side, and this is his debut essentially because we're not going to even count the Bills game. That was a nightmare. I think 50 is kind of crazy. I mean, I think that is somewhat of a bold prediction because what I will say about this, Alexis, is that the Vegas books are probably going to have him not even on there because what do you even put him at? What would be his over under like with yards, like rushing yards?
If I'm on Caesars on Sunday, and there's like,
I'm not betting on it. Rams are 0-11 when I bet on the Rams.
Really?
100%.
I don't know that I bet on player touchdowns for the Rams, but I've been doing really well on like player, like last week. I bet,
you should. Yeah.
I should.
You're the one that was like Matthew Stafford rushing touchdown, first touchdown of the game. What the hell is that witchcraft?
If you guys didn't see my tweet, the week 2 weeks ago, man. I think it was when Matthew Stafford ran for his first touchdown from 2016. I bet before the game that he'd score the first touchdown of the game.
She definitely went back in time, or she went forward in time, saw in the future, and was like, "Oh, this is an easy bet."
I performed some rituals. I did some time travel, and it paid off.
Clearly.
And then the next week, last week, I bet 2 Cole Kmet touchdowns.
That was freaky. Like, what the hell?
And it happened. So maybe if I see a Kyren Williams, player to score a touchdown or whatever, I'll go for it. I love to bet those weird ones where it's like plus
Oh,
3,000 odds.
You
Those are
need to
great.
just put together a parlay, like a same game parlay that's all Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams receiving yards, rushing yards, and anytime touchdown scorer.
That'd be poetic if I could hit on that. I mean, to just get all those right, and
You'd
we'll
be like,
see.
see, I told you, I never had a doubt.
But okay, score time, Jake, score time. So I think the Rams are going to win. I'm a little shaky on a high scoring game because we're about to probably see two backup quarterbacks, two beaten up offensive lines. It just doesn't seem like it's set up to be a high powered offensive game just by the looks of it on paper. So I'm going to say the Rams win, like, this is painful, like 17-7. Is that too, like, I'm just really expecting just like a gruesome, and as Rams fans, we should be conditioned to this.
I didn't know
Like,
this was a horror film.
Like, no, like that's what we're gonna watch. Like, I'm expecting, like, and it's not even gonna be on the field. It's gonna be me clawing my eyes out. Like, it's just gonna be like, it's gonna be, I don't know. Like, it's just, you look at, it just gets worse. Like, you look at everybody who's injured on both teams and you look at just these two teams' seasons and going into it, it's like I'm very convinced this is not going to be a good game to watch. It's not going to be fun. But there is that little part of me that's like, both of these teams have so much to lose. Like, they could come out and just absolutely light it up. I don't think that will happen. But there is that like little flicker of like flame like inside of me where I'm like, what if these teams come out and they're like,
I always feel that with Sean McVay's offense.
Well, yeah, but I'm going 17-7, and I know that it's probably going to, I hope that it's over that, at least for the Rams. But I'm very shaky on this game offensively. I don't think it's going to be an offensively great game. What about you, Jake?
I'm curious what the under is on this. I got to look it up real quick because I'm like, see, here's the thing. I feel like the under is going to be so low that it's actually profitable to go with the over. Like, this is such an under game. Yeah, it's 40.
Is the what?
The under's 40.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's actually not as low as I thought. I would still probably go with the under on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 24-13. I think the Rams are 11 points better than the Cardinals in this game going into it. With or without Stafford, I think the Rams win this game. I think with or without Wolford, the Rams win this game. I think the Rams could win this game with Perkins. But I think you go with the veteran here, or whatever you want to call him, the guy that has the more experience. I mean, he's still a backup that's only played one game in the NFL. But for real though, I think this is a guy, keep in mind, Alexis, when Stafford was out during the offseason, Wolford was getting all the first team reps. Wolford got all the first team reps this week. So he's prepared for this. And I think they're going to use Perkins in a way that's similar to Taysom Hill. I think we will see Perkins in this game, and I'm excited about that opportunity. I think 24-13 is fair because 24-13 signals that the Cardinals did get in the end zone. I don't think the Rams are going to go 2 games in a row without giving up a touchdown to the Cardinals. But I think the Cardinals get in the end zone. I think it's probably a Hopkins touchdown. And then, they kick, 2 field goals. And then I think the Rams, I had, Wolford throwing a touchdown, Wolford rushing, and then a field goal, and then probably another touchdown. Yeah. So that's how I have it. 24-13, I think, makes sense. The spread is 3. So it's just it's a typical, they're home favorites, 3-point favorites. I think they can cover that. Yeah, that's how I have it.
Well, there you have it, guys. We're both predicting a Rams win this Sunday. A win is always fun, but it's even more sweet against a division opponent.
Counts twice.
So I hope that we get that. And guys, we're excited. We're a couple days away. This episode should drop a day after we record this. It's going to drop tomorrow morning. I don't expect much to change. So, guys, we'll see you after the game. Next week, we'll do a recap episode of the game. But until then, as always, please like and subscribe. You could follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Kraft. You can follow Jake at JKBogan. And we'll be back next week, guys. But until then, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.
If you haven't joined Prize Picks yet, you need to do it this season. Prize Picks allows you to pick up to 5 player props, and it gives you the option to 10x your winnings. Look at this right now. Tom Brady right now, for a limited time only, is a free square, because unless he gets hurt, he is going to be getting that 0.5. I'm going to select Tom Brady. I'm going to select Josh Allen going 275.5. Matthew Stafford going 265.5. We'll just throw Lamar Jackson in here, and let's just throw Justin Fields gets more than 191.5. So what you do here, you put more, or less if you believe, Lamar Jackson gets less than that. And there you go, 10x your winnings if this pays out. You will actually get paid out even if you only hit 3 of them. You'll get 0.4 times your money back. You'll get 2 times. You'll double your money if you get at least 4 out of 5. Deposit today by using our promo code DTRAMS, and you'll get up to a $100 bonus match.